The war on drugs convoked by President Nixon 40 years ago has been a total failure, as well as the policy and the strategy followed by Presidente Calderón in Mexico has also been a total failure. There's no reduction on crime rates, no reduction on the killings and the death, no reduction on consumption, and the problem gets worse and worse each time. Of course, I watched the Portugal phenomena, which has been great, total legalization and total good results. The end result is 25% reduction in consumption. Of course, it has avoided now crime and illegality, and now it's working, I would say, splendid. Same case, Holland. But then I came to the States. I've been watching what's going on here. So I visited the state of Washington, the city of Seattle, and participated, learning about the whole chain since the production of the plant, the transformation, the distribution and selling, and the medical use, and today the use, the responsible use on adults. And there I think that we have something that is strategic and important for Mexico. And I hope that progresses and finally Mexico opens the door to get out of the trap where we are in violence, crime, violations of human rights, violations of due process of justice, so that these ideas, I'm sure, will be accepted by public opinion and will influence decision makers. Watching these 80,000 kids that have been killed in Mexico in the last 6 years, kids that were not even 15-year-olds or 25-year-olds, because of the lack of opportunities, they joined the cartels and joined crime. We must make sure that these kids from now on will live in a more peaceful ambiente, and also will have the opportunities that were denied to those other 80,000. Every day there's an additional 40 kids being killed. So this has to be stopped. We need to get out of the idea and the paradigm that prohibitions work, and the paradigm that violence defeats violence, and enforcement of the law as the only strategy. That's totally mistaken, and so we want to bring in a new way, a new strategy for doing things. The money the cartels are raising here in the United States, being the largest consumer market in the world, that yields over 50 billion US dollars every year. This money is brought back to Mexico to bribe the government officials, to hire these kids, to buy the guns and ammunition that they are using on this violent war that we have down there. So certainly will have an effect and an impact. And the clear concept and conviction that moving this industry or this business from criminals to businessmen, from no taxes being paid to government collecting huge amount, will do the work. But the most important thing that has to happen is that all those resources and money have to be invested in education, information, and prevention. And at the same time, having citizens informed what this is all about, they will take responsible decisions that they are not taking today. I don't think that governments have the capacity to stop this. It's going to be stopped by people, by citizens, by the young kids, by everybody that will become more responsible in taking care of your own body and your own health. My highest priority is to stop violence in Mexico. Okay. And this is one clear way that we will accomplish that. in the process of time. But number two, we are linked, totally linked through NAFTA, the three of us nations in North America. And this means that we cannot take individual, separate, independent decisions. What's going on here in the United States in relations to legalization has a strong impact in Mexico. It will have a very strong impact in the border itself. And by the same token, if we move ahead in Mexico and we speed up the process, it will have a very strong impact also in states like California. Yeah. Today, many more people die from excess in drinking alcohol, or excess in smoking, or excess in having bad eating habits. And so diabetes, so obesity is killing much more people than drugs. Same thing with alcohol and that. So, and also these new findings about not only the positive use of cannabis to temper pain, to reduce stress on those who have illnesses, especially those with terminal problems, is proven to be very helpful. And we see in Mexico today that even being forbidden, we see that every sick people in the hospital request either heroin or cocaine or cannabis. So it's a proven method for medical use. Plus the fact today that, and this will be part of the panelists' participation in Mexico, the treatment of cancer with cannabis. We want them to start evaluating, thinking, analyzing, and not just saying no because President Obama says no or because President Peña says no. I think that in this freedom that we exercise as human beings, we must have the capacity to deal with this problem. Right now, the situation is totally of abstinence, no research, no nothing. It's just the culture of prohibition is prevalent. This is one thing that I have discussed with the groups that I've been here with, and we're going to bring, or I'm going to try to bring, a very sophisticated research process that will cost several millions of dollars to really come up with true statements, to really come up with true findings on what's going on. Might take a couple of years, but I think it's very important to do it. How many good products we have in Mexico, in Oaxaca, el peyote, or many other herbs and plants that are used by the indigenous communities with the wisdom they have for health purposes and for curative purposes. I'm sure this plant has those advantages. I'm not a user, of course. I won't ever be a user. Simply, I respect anybody that makes decisions that have to do with him by not affecting third parties. So I always respect that, and I do it in this case. I do it in the case of gay community, in the case of marriage between persons of the same sex. I'm not in agreement with that, but I fully respect that situation. We're not moving from prohibition to absolute freedom and everybody goes crazy. That doesn't happen. We're moving from prohibition to regulation. Regulation is a key issue. And that's very important, that what it is being discussed right now in Washington State by the alcohol and the cigarette agencies is that regulation. We should be better than the one they have for alcohol or the one for cigarette. Where you can smoke and where you cannot. Where can you have marijuana and when you cannot. If you're going to drive, you should not have it. If you don't have the age to be able to to do this responsibly, don't do it. So there's going to be, regulation is a key factor. And regulation is very different to prohibition in ethical or moral terms. And this is an issue that we have not discussed yet, but let me tell you that not only God created us free, the founding fathers of this nation, they are absolutely committed with freedom, but at the same time with the idea that governments do not have the right to intervene in my conscience, to intervene in my behavior, to intervene in my decision, unless I affect third parties. Then the state and governments have the right to intervene. But if not, it shouldn't happen. So again, ethical and moral reasons sustain the idea of moving out of the prohibition and start walking on the road of information, ruling or regulation better than prohibiting. You have a guy like Steve Jobs. I mean, 10 years he used cannabis for 10 years. He had LSD, and he's the Einstein of the 21st century, one of the most brilliant minds that we can conceive. And he was able to administrate himself, keep his health, keep his mind brilliant, and do great things in the world. So the whole thing has to do with me, human being. What is good for me, what I can resist, what I can assimilate, what I can digest without harming myself. And this is where all the money that is going to be raised in Washington, in Denver, in Colorado, in Mexico in the future, all the money raised, instead of being in the hands of the criminals, now it's going to be in the hands of the state. Prohibition was started here, and pretty soon it was found out that prohibitions don't work. And so in Chicago, and with the capos and the padrinos and the war and the violence, decided finally to eliminate the prohibition, and everything started working much better. So the key issue here is to separate the crime, violence issues from the health issues, and then you can handle the problem. And prohibition started right from Garden of Eden, as we Catholics believe, with the forbidden apple, the prohibited apple. And it didn't work. It didn't work because God created us free, even to go against Him and to sin against Him. We're free to do that. That's a key issue on the creation and for all human beings. So if we're free, we can take free, responsible decisions. That prohibited apple, it would have been more convincing for Adam and Eve if somebody would have told them, that apple has worms. So watch out, don't eat it because it has worms. I'm sure they would have attended that and they would not have eaten the apple.
Right.
Instead, when you tell them, this is prohibited, immediately you have the temptation to do so.